Hey, folks, this is Divya, and I'm so excited. You may be asking again. Yes, I'm super excited because today we are highlighting our power healers. Just want to give you a quick background on how did this come about. So, folks, I want to share that I contribute to different magazines. I contribute to different outlets, as quite a few of you know, amongst like Forbes, Entrepreneur, CEO World Magazine, Grid Daily, Addicted to Success, and a whole lot slew of large and medium-sized publications. And we were just kind of sitting and talking about. I was sharing a story about one of my clients, how they made a tremendous journey of recovering their mental well-being. Especially, we have had so many natural disasters and human disasters going around for the past couple of years. And then I was sharing about who was instrumental in making that happen. And as we were talking, we said, there's so many unsung heroes who make so much of a difference in people's lives and they're not recognized. So we opened it up for it by invitation only, and we got applications, few folks who went through the applications from different contributions. Few healers were selected for the dedication to well-being. And I want to share that we are bringing you those power healers. And without further ado, I'm going to have them introduce themselves. So, welcome everyone. I am so thrilled and honored to be here in your company and all the work that you're doing. So, I'd love to invite y'all. So, Cheryl, would you like to share a bit about yourself as to what is it that you do?
Okay. I'm Cheryl Hanna. I am a natural bioenergetics specialist and an instructor for the Natural Bioenergetics Institute in Canada. And I've been doing this, I've been working in energy medicine for probably close to 21 years now. And mother of 12, grandmother to almost 21 grandchildren. I got 2 on the way. One's due at any minute now. And I have a background in natural birth. I've been a doula and a midwifery assistant and herbalist, you name it. Natural healing's my gig.
Well, congratulations. Sounds like you have brought a lot of hope and joy to a lot of people.
Thank you.
Marcia.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Divya, and to anyone catching this on the replay. So I'm Marcia Tapperman. I'm based in Australia, and I am a transformational life coach and a somatic healer. And I've been doing coaching for many, many years as a well-being specialist, a body worker as well in rehabilitation. And in the last 3 years, I took the path of somatic healing and working with people to heal trauma. So I'm also the author of a book, Road to Recovery, which is right here, a journey of physical and emotional healing, where I share my journey of recovery and also the insights and the techniques that I used to heal my body and soul since my car accident. And that's a little bit about me. I help people, help growth-minded professional women heal trauma, access authenticity so they can reach their full potential. That's what I do. That's what I love doing.
Heather.
Hi, my name is Heather Forrester, and I am a holistic energy healer and life coach. And I specialize in helping women overcome anxiety and recover from trauma, specifically without having to relive the traumatic experiences that caused the trauma to begin with. So I'm really passionate about this healing because I've been doing it for myself first for a few years before I went back to school. This opportunity landed in my lap. I became so passionate about it to start helping other people to do the same thing. So I'm really, really honored to be a part of this healing journey and to be a part of these other healers as well, because I know how much it impacted myself, my own life, to change through energy healing, and then just learning tools on how to heal trauma without having to actually relive the experiences. Because in my experience, I did both. I went through a lot of different healing modalities where I had to relive everything in detail, and that was traumatic in itself, right? So I was really dedicated to come up with a new way of healing. And I'm not saying that I'm the only one doing this exact modality, but I wanted to create something really unique for people that wanted to heal. So healing could be a fun and joyful experience. So that's my passion, is making healing beautiful and fun like it should be.
So excited to continue the conversation. Linda.
Thanks, Divya. I'm very excited to be here. And what I do is I help people become their best you, to bring body, mind, soul, spirit, and environment together to create a life that they can be happy living and they can spread their own joy and light from. And so it's really about bringing people into a space where the stresses of daily life don't throw them off, where they're resilient enough to be able to really handle what's ever in their world and maintain their center, their joy, their happiness in the process of living the life that they're living. And that doesn't mean they're not going to have any problems. It doesn't mean they're going to face difficulties, but they'll have the resources, both emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and energetically, to handle those easily. So it's all about looking at the whole person and figuring out where are the holes in their bucket. What do we need to deal with that? How do we remove the past trauma and drama out of their life? Allow it to sort of become, the black and white picture in the background, still part of their experience, but it doesn't need to energize their present. And to be able to live in the present in peace and happiness and joy without those things pushing them off. So it's building their resilience and allowing them to handle their life in a way that they're happy with and not have all those daily stresses, knocking them here, there, and everywhere, but to be able to move forward in the way they want to, in the kind of person they want to be, and allow them to interact with everybody in an appropriate way and not get triggered by all this old stuff that's stuck around, whether it's on an emotional, a spiritual, a social, doesn't matter what level it is, toxic, environmental, all of those things are part of the stresses, and we want to become resilient enough that we can be happy in our life regardless of them.
Yeah, beautiful.
Blessings. My name is Keller, and I live in Australia, and I call myself the Goddess Yoga Healer. So my mission in life, I feel, is to awaken people to being their highest self, like the best versions of themselves they can be in this life. And I adore this job because I get to be a part of people's transformations. And I kind of see it like helping a butterfly understand its change in life and find its wings, and know that when it spreads its wings, it's going to be able to fly, and have trust and confidence in that. So my business is called Goddess Yoga. And I've called it this because one of my superpowers, I feel, is bringing ancient traditions like yoga. Yoga's like thousands of years old. People don't realize that. Meditation, shamanic healing, and honoring goddess energies and God archetypes into modern day life. So I weave the two together, and I love bringing those traditions and bringing them into the contemporary world and honoring those traditions by doing that. And in this way, I kind of call myself a modern day medicine woman, which is very much a shamanic term, medicine meaning whatever is healing for you. So I run a yoga and healing studio at my home, which is on a really peaceful property in the Adelaide Hills. I have so many trees and horses and wildlife around me here. It's a really relaxing, beautiful place. So the studio that I've got is super nourishing for people. When they come here, they feel instantly relaxed and nurtured. And I've of course got goddess statues all around the property with flowers and things like that. So I've dedicated my space to healing, to the healing of me and all beings. The energy work that I do, that I offer, is very heart connected, and people say it's very transformative. And I connect in this way through a deep sense of personal wisdom that I know that I was born with. And through this way, I give spiritual guidance to people. It's kind of like soul coaching, I guess. And then I add on energy healing. So we sit and we do a guidance session, and then I bring energy healing in that way as well. And I can do this online and in person. So it's quite, it's wonderful to be able to reach people in their own homes as well. And people generally kind of come to me when they're ready to make a shift in their lives, to balance themselves, to level up to their next stage in life, or to alchemize their trauma into what I call clarity and resilience. So to find ways to bring that trauma through, to do some healing work there. And also a lot of people just come to me to look after their energy body, because that's so important. I also run goddess training programs, which is deep and sacred work, and it's also really fun. And I mainly do this with women, bringing in goddess archetypes. And this work is dedicated to remembering who we are, and how powerful we are, and not in the masculine, like go hunting, I'm powerful kind of way, but kind of more in the feminine, what I call magnetizing way. So how we bring things to us through our own innate natural state of attraction. Mm-hmm. And I feel that this approach is really on the rise. And I'm so excited to be a part of that. I also teach yoga classes in my studio, and I run yoga retreats in Bali in Australia, which is probably one of my favorite things to do.
Wonderful. Jennifer.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jennifer, and I am a spiritual life and business coach. And I like to bring spirituality into everyday life in a no BS, realistic kind of way, because we are all born with a God spark. We all have that divine within us. And it's just learning how to reignite that and allow that to be a part of your daily life. So whether it's your business, whether it's your life, like I try to help you dig into that, figure out what divine alignment even is for you, and how that would feel, and how that can then show up in your life. My book is called Embodied Grace, A Woman's Path to Empowerment. And it's all about embodying grace and allowing yourself to be graceful and dance through life in divine flow and divine alignment.
Oh, that's beautiful. All right, Brian. So can you tell us, what is it that you do?
Well, hello, my name is Brian Matthews. I am a natural bioenergetic specialist. I'm an owner and operator of a business called Bioenergetic by Design here on the west coast of Canada, just outside of Vancouver, BC. We offer a range of different services, all designed to get to the causal aspects of stress, remove the triggers that keep the brain in fight or flight, and allow energy to flow properly and normally within the human biofield. Psychologically, emotionally, physically, and energetically. Once those triggers are removed and energy flows properly and completely, restoration and lift has occurred.
Terry, your turn. What do you do?
Hey, my name's Terry Messenger, and I'm the founder of the Master Key program. So what that is it's based upon neuro-linguistic programming and hypnotherapy. But what I've done is created my own modalities that help people to release trauma and really just smash the lid off the ceiling so they can break through into their highest potential.
Lovely. It's phenomenal how you guys have presented. So Cheryl, share with us, what is it that you do, and a little bit about your own healing journey.
Well, I am a natural bioenergetic specialist. I work out of Prince George, BC, Canada, and I'm also an instructor with the Natural Bioenergetics Institute in Canada. My healing journey began over 20 years ago. Like so many people who get into this line of work, we usually come into it because we've had our own health challenges. And I was pregnant with my 11th child, and I broke out in this horrendous rash that went from my head all right down to my feet. And Western medicine had nothing safe to offer me to use while I was pregnant. And so I turned to alternative methods, and that was my introduction. And within a very short period of time, I was back on my feet, and I was absolutely fascinated with what I experienced. It was completely beyond weird. And I'm going to be the first person to tell you that energy medicine looks weird, because you are asked to do some really extraordinary, weird things, which in the context of what you're doing actually makes sense. But from somebody looking in from the outside, it's like, what in the world is this, voodoo, or what is it you're doing, right? So that started me. I was quite curious about it and started pursuing it and got involved in it, started teaching it, and it's become a lifelong passion for me now.
Beautiful, Cheryl. Imagine that here you are pregnant, and then when you go through it, you were able to overcome that. So Marcia, share with us, what is it that you do and about your healing journey?
So I'm a transformational coach and a somatic healer. And I have, healing has looked very different for me throughout my life. And it started really early in life, in my teens, but after I found myself in a loveless marriage, I wondered what the heck was happening and how did I get there? And I started to get really curious. So it started initially with the self-discovery and self-awareness. And I then took, NLP courses to become a master practitioner NLP and all of that, and did all of the trainings you can imagine. But it wasn't until I found somatic healing and trauma healing work that is safe, that you don't have to relive the experiences, where you can access, your inner truth and your authenticity through the body in a really light and transformative way, that I felt confident to be the coach that I am today. It completely changed my life, and it changed my work. And so I'm really passionate about helping women, professional women who are like going through the motions and also want to be, good moms, present partners. I want to affect their lives so they can be the best that the best person that they can be when trauma isn't, running in the background.
Very powerful. Thank you, Marcia. Heather.
So my healing journey really began when my father passed away unexpectedly when I was 20 years old. He was my best friend, I wasn't very close with my mom, so he was kind of both for me. He was my mom and my dad. So losing was really traumatic. And the only reason I think I am here today is because I was married to someone that I thought was like my twin flame. They were like everything to me. I was deeply in love with this man. And not long after my dad passed away, I decided that I was ready to have a baby. I was probably trying to fill some sort of void with my dad being gone and everything. And so we decided to get pregnant, and I had my daughter. And as soon as I got pregnant, things between me and my husband started to get weird, and things started to shift, and there was a lot of distance. This created a lot of depression and anxiety during my pregnancy with all the hormones, because I had already struggled with depression and anxiety before I got pregnant. So it was just kind of enhanced when I felt like something was wrong in the marriage, right? And so then when my daughter was born, things only continued to get worse with me and my husband. So I ended up having some pretty extreme postpartum depression. Thankfully, it wasn't like I wanted to hurt myself or my daughter, but I was just really mentally struggling. Like, I felt like I wasn't going to be a good mother to her. I felt like I was going to ruin her life because of my mental health, and that she just deserved better. But then, of course, I couldn't give her away because who was going to take care of her kind of thing. And then when she was about 4 months old, my husband wrote me a letter coming out to me as transgender. And this, there's nothing wrong with that. But what it did to me was, it was just a really confusing time, because I felt like I was married now to a stranger and had a child with a stranger, somebody that I had no idea, that I thought that was my love of my life, that I had a certain life that I had planned out with this person, right? And it was all a lie. That's how it felt. It felt like the ultimate betrayal. And then not only that, I felt extremely used because things didn't happen until I was pregnant. It kind of felt like I got trapped in this situation, right? So it was really devastating. And it kind of broke me to my core because before all of those traumatic events that happened back to back, I had my own childhood trauma that I went through with the sexual abuse and verbal and mental abuse, right? And even some physical abuse. So this experience with my husband broke me to my core, and my body was starting to shut down. I was struggling with addiction to marijuana, and I just couldn't function without anything, right? I couldn't get through the day. This broke me to my core, and my body started to shut down from all the stress and the anxiety. And I heard a voice in my head, and it said, you can let your 1-year-old daughter watch you heal and get back up, or you can let her watch you die. And I knew that was my choice. I knew it was my choice to heal or die at that point because my body was starting to shut down. I literally couldn't go a day without feeling like I was going to have a heart attack. And I didn't know where I was going to start, how I was going to do it, but I just did it. And I just kept following this voice that kept pushing me in the right direction. And it led me back to school. It led me to change careers. It led me to where I am now and everything that I've learned and all this entirely unique process of energy and other transformational coaching methods. It's just amazing where I am. So even though it was a really painful experience to get here, I am grateful for this profound experience that I've had in life.
Wow, we have some powerful ladies here. So amazing. Linda, would you like to share with us your healing journey as to what got you into healing?
Sure. It's been a long road. I've been doing this for many, many years, but it comes out of a background of burnout, a background of not knowing who I was or what I needed to do or how to make myself happy. I grew up in a less than happy home with some significant struggles because of a father who was alcoholic most of my life. And so I came to healing in desperation because I was burnt out, I was struggling. We had been working in South America in a nonprofit and returned to Canada with 2 boys who at the time were 12 and 14, didn't want to live in Canada, hated us for taking them to this terrible godforsaken country. They loved Peru and were not happy moving to Canada. So they were going through culture shock, language shock, school shock. So were we. It was a very difficult time. And I got to the point of burnout where I continued to function, but I was frozen inside. I mean, I had to function because we had to earn a living. We had to pay for being in Canada. I couldn't not work, but I knew something had to change. And about that point, we met a fellow who does what is now called natural bioenergetics. And he began to work with my kids because part of why we moved back to Canada was that both of my boys had severe and significant allergies. One was allergic to everything you could breathe, and the other one was allergic to everything you could eat. Needless to say, they'd been sick most of their lives. And I grew up in a natural family. My grandmother was one of the first chiropractors in Canada, first women chiropractors in Canada. And, I had studied reflexology, and we did all the diet and the nutrition and the herbs. And I mean, we'd done it all, and they weren't getting over it. And we met this guy who does natural bioenergetics, and in a matter of months, he had them off their antihistamines, off their highly restricted diets, starting to enjoy life again, starting to heal. So in the middle of all that, as I was burning out, I said, well, can you do a session on me? And he did, and he fixed my allergies immediately. I didn't even tell him what they were. He figured them out. And in the end, he goes, by the way, your thyroid isn't working. I go, I know, it never has. I've been on thyroid, the highest dose they make, since I was 12 years old. And he goes, well, would you like that fixed? Really? Sure, please. And in 2 sessions, it was like a switch flipped. My thyroid clicked on, zoomed up to normal, and has been there ever since. That's now almost 16 years ago. I stopped cold turkey taking my thyroid medication because I just knew it was different. I didn't need it. And about 3 months later, because I know how long it takes for the blood test to work, I called my doctor and said, hey, test my thyroid, something's changed. And she did, and she called me back and said, oh, it's perfectly normal. And I went, yeah, but I haven't taken a pill in 3 months. And she says, oh, the test is wrong, we'll retest it. And they did, and they kept retesting. And I finally said, we're done. It's fixed. I'm good. And at that point, I told the guy, whatever you don't know, you need to teach me. I need to know this stuff. And that began my journey of training. And I am now the lead instructor for Natural Bioenergetics worldwide and run the Natural Bioenergetics Institute. We have teachers around and students around the world and practitioners, hundreds of practitioners around the world. And I've studied many different things, but we keep coming back to this one because it just works all the time. And it addresses the whole person, the whole body, and your relationship to the world around it. And so it's turned my life completely around. It's healed our family in unimaginable ways. And for me, going deeper into the energy medicine world has just been such a thrill, and to be able to see how all the different things, I mean, I've trained in a zillion different methodologies and in modalities, but to see how they all come together to build a person up and allow them to take off all the layers of stuff that life has covered them with, and to get down to their own brilliance and their own light and begin to live out of that. It was my journey, and I just love sharing that with so many other people, and to be able to become that free light source in the world and that free ability to be you in the world is just been amazing to me.
Beautiful. And thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, my personal healing journey is, it's kind of one that's more cumulative, or has been many experiences over time. And I know a lot of people have had their healing journey initiated or sparked by something quite traumatic that's happened. And I do feel like that has also happened for me. But I do feel like also that since I can remember, since being a young child, talking with nature and connecting with animals and feeling a real part of the natural world, and I just remember having this magical connection of play and curiosity that was developed since quite young. And I also remember feeling quite estranged in my family, like I was different. I knew I was different as young, and I didn't really know why. And at about kind of around 10 years old, I started spending a little bit more time at my great auntie's house, and she's a psychic. And she had all these books by Edgar Cayce, Shirley MacLaine, and Louise Hay. And so I actually borrowed, as a young, 10, 12-year-old, borrowed all of these books and started really diving into these understandings of the human psyche. And to me, that's where life started making sense. And I started a dream diary, and, I was quite studious with that. And I would kind of wake myself up at specific times to make sure I got the most potent messages out of my dreams. And that really, looking back, that started forming the neurological pathways that I needed to be able to bring my healing work into the world now, which is for me about looking at how I've been able to see things differently, break out of patterns and recreate my world, which is what I did, and what I did when I was really young all the way through until now. And so I feel like I've trained myself, but also I have experienced a lot of personal traumas along the way around me, and also impacting me personally. And what I believe I've done through that is learn how to self-heal and brought in my experiences. And the way I kind of think about this is, it's a very yogic term, the mud and the lotus. So the lotus flower can't grow without the mud. And the mud to me are all of those experiences that I've had, and we call them trauma. I know we call them trauma, but I also see there's incredible gifts sitting within these experiences. And sometimes those times we call traumatic that have happened in my life, that have happened in people around me, that have really floored me, but they've taken me to that place where there's nothing else. I'm so stripped back. There's nothing else but me and my soul self. And that is such a nurturing realization to have. And I feel like having gone through all of these experiences in my personal journey has led me to the point where I'm actually ready to help others, that I'm more than ready to show people that mud is a light, that I can help to reassure them that they're going to get through it. And so for me, my healing journey has been really consistent through my whole life. But there definitely was a couple of years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, where we had a particular family trauma in our home where there was a suicide. And what that did, I was working in corporate at the time, and what that did was made me reach very deeply into myself and look for what I could bring to that trauma that was happening to people around me. And what I realized was that I have a very deep well of what I can offer people in holding space in those times. And I made a decision at that time with my beautiful husband, Jason, that there's nothing else that's more important than me bringing my light to others to show them the way when they're in that mud. So my healing journey has become about others entirely, and what I can bring to their lives to help them see that there are other ways, there are other options, there are other perspectives, and to find that faith in themselves, that there's something greater holding them than the trauma.
That's beautiful. Having that connection with your inner self throughout your life. Amazing. Jennifer, we'd love to hear your healing journey.
Of course, as healers and coaches, we tend to do healing and coaching around what we've been through. So for me, a lot of what I teach on and heal on and work with and do energy work around has to do with radical self-acceptance, because I was born psychic, but also raised in a Christian family. And especially in the US, that is so not, that's like not a thing that you put together. Total oxymoron, not even in the same thing and same realm. Like, you do not put those two words together. So to say that I'm Christian and psychic was a big deal. And there was a lot of healing that came around that. But again, being born psychic, I've always seen the other realms. I've always seen Jesus and the angels. And I knew without a doubt that there's a divine spark inside of every single one of us. And we sing it, right? Like as children, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. And so this became a bigger calling for me. I shut down my psychic gifts like when I was about 14, or at least I tried. And then that just created anxiety and inconsistency and incongruency within myself and with authenticity and everything. And so it just created this storm of anxiety and not good enough and not worthy and all of these things that just compounded and compounded. And so that is really where my healing journey went. I actually finally had a knockdown drag out and said, you know what, you did this to me, show me what to do with this. And when I finally accepted that it was a gift and instead of a curse, the more I speak on it, the more I realize how many, especially Christian women, have these divine gifts and they don't have any way to express them. They don't understand what they mean. They don't know how to work with them. And it creates incongruency. It makes them shut down a piece of themselves, which is not healthy, which causes the issues in the physical body, which makes us not feel good enough. All of these things compounding onto each other. So a lot of radical self-acceptance, understanding what it means to want and desire and create a life that you love by being authentic, by trusting yourself, by tapping into your own divine nature and cultivating that spiritual connection that we all have to the divine.
Yeah, I can imagine, because I personally went to a Catholic school, that when you were experiencing that gift, how hard it must have been, and bringing that radical self-acceptance in your life. Oh, these power stories, so inspiring. Terry, do you want to share about your healing journey?
So my journey began in 2006. So it was one of the darkest moments in my life when my marriage had collapsed. I'd lost my ministry. I felt like I had no job. I had no home. And, I felt really abandoned. But I just had so much self-doubt. I was riddled in self-doubt. So when I actually found neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP found me, because I can remember being at one of the darkest points of my life and seeing Anthony Robbins. And, this is at a time when I didn't know what NLP was about. I had no clue about all this healing, and I just saw it and immediately I went, I've got to have that. So it's almost like my world and the world of neuro-linguistic programming came together when I least expected it. And, in 1 week, I literally revolutionized my life. So what it meant was that I was able to really go back in time and heal so much trauma, so many boundaries that had been crossed in my life, so much stress, and there were so many things that began to come together. And even though I had so many battles and struggles and never thought I was good enough, I knew that there was something bigger inside me. And it was like what Anthony Robbins says, it's like the giant ready to literally come out and release. And that's exactly how I felt. And, you know, my foundation of developing the Master Key program really comes from the level of my own, where when my health changed, of course, that being the most important part of my life. When my relationships changed and I became more sure of myself, you know, that meant that I was able to really tap into who I was as a person. When my self-esteem changed and I suddenly became sure about who I am in this world, well, that's when I grew even 0.5 centimetre taller at the age of 40, because I think something happened in my nervous system and, you know, it just raised my posture, raised my energy, raised my frequency. And all of a sudden, I was able to become this person that I just knew I had to give it to the world. And of course, the 5 master keys and number 4 master key being your zone of genius. That's where I was really able to come out and, you know, be inside my God-given calling and help other people to release their trauma and discover their zone of genius, which I guess I might be able to talk about a little later, but that's where I discovered that the pain of your story can become your crown of glory. And of course, last but not least is Master Key number 5. And that's where we literally launch the legacy of coaches, healers, and people that really want to bring this, you know, their service to the world.
Yes, my healing journey, it came to reality in 2007. Prior to 2007, I was healthy, strong, and able to do pretty much what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it, how I wanted to do it. There was at times a sense of immortality with some of the success I was having with work and sports. And we lived in the mountains, and it was a dynamic time of life. I was involved with a car accident in 2007, and that rapidly came apart. What was a strong and healthy body became impacted. I had back problems, neck problems, headache, neurological whiplash. The sense of personal failure and inability to do all the things I wanted to do got a hold of me, and I went through a bit of a dark time. Ended up being off work 3.5 years to get over that. And in the latter part of that 3.5 years, I met someone who worked in a discipline called natural bioenergetics. And at the time, it was a completely new idea to me, energy work. I didn't understand what it was. However, I was in a rather desperate state. And this practitioner specialist began to work with natural bioenergetics, and I started to see impossible things occur. Things which the neurosurgeon said they had no explanation for it, and just simply said, you keep doing what you're doing because this is working for you and I can't do anything else. And what went from a fairly desperate and hopeless situation, a significant strength returned, ability returned, mobility returned, the blinding headaches and the neurological damage and the whiplash just went away. It was the oddest thing to experience. What was impossible became possible. And it sort of seized my attention. Whenever something impossible happens, I really want to know more about it, and I want to be involved in it. And it was a complete career path change for me. I went from owning a construction company, building high-end homes in a ski resort, to studying natural bioenergetics and the energy model of the human biofield, and how that's interactive, and it's a dynamic and full way to live life minute by minute in a way that is fulfilling and exciting. And it's a privilege to be able to work with individuals with this system.
Wow, Brian, that was amazing. That just, it actually reminds me of a book that I read, The Miracle Morning, and how a guy had a really serious car accident and he virtually had to rebuild himself from the ground up. But, you know, from where you've been, you know, blinding headaches and, you know, all that suffering to, like, you know, turning the impossible into I'm possible. You know, how did that impact your family? And like, what did your family and friends say when they just suddenly saw you evolving the way you did?
Yes, it's a very good question, because we went from the depths of despair to something different. And we had moved away from our main community, moved to the city where there was more support, and we had some other projects on the go. And we would go back, and there would be these transformational moments where we just wasn't as sick as before, wasn't more able to do things. And it's similar to your story when you're sharing how you went through this collapse of your main support systems, your main beliefs. And in the depths of that, you discovered something new and more, and lifted with it in a way that was, well, transformational. Look where you are now from what you spoke of who you were then. It is those moments of trial and tribulation that begins to refine us, and we grow in a greater depth and a greater ability to connect with other people. And listening to your story, just the key components, I find that people of transformation have been transformed, and it's often through trial and tribulation.
So good.
Yeah, it's so amazing. I'm just so thrilled as I'm listening to stories. And here's the thing, I've read the stories before, and every time I hear, it's so inspiring. So Cheryl, you have given us a glimpse in your healing journey. And tell us, how did you take all the learning and started helping others out? And if you have a story or two to share with us.
In 2005, I had a heart attack. At the time, I still had 10 of my 12 children living at home. I had a 5-month-old baby. I was in an abusive marriage, also in an abusive church, as I later discovered. And the pressure of everything that I was experiencing at the time just took me over the edge. I was homeschooling 7 children. I was concerned that I wasn't preparing them well enough for life. So that was all weighing on me as well. And one day something happened, and the next thing you know, I felt like this elephant that had been sitting on my chest for months finally started to crush me, and I ended up in the hospital with a 5-month-old that I refused to leave home because I was still breastfeeding. And when I came out of the hospital, it became very apparent to me that as far as my husband was concerned, he didn't really care if I lived or died, as long as the sandwiches were there when he went to lunch and he had his meals and his other needs looked after. He did nothing to take care of me post heart attack. And so I realized at that point, my life didn't really mean much to him. And the following September, I decided to put my kids into a private school. And 2 weeks into the school year, I found him choking another one of my children, his hands around the neck, throttling him on the ground. And I pulled him off, and I just went, that's it. I am done. You're supposed to be protecting us, and instead we need protection from you. And I said, I'm not doing this anymore. So within 3 days, he was out of the home, and I'm telling you, it was the best 200 pounds I ever lost. And he never came back because I wouldn't let him. But there I was with 7 kids. I'd been a homemaker for 28 years, and I was like, okay, God, you better show up because I have no idea how I'm going to make it. But people started showing up, and I had already started taking training in the type of work that I do. And lo and behold, the guy who trained me, he got really sick, and I ended up taking over his practice for a time. So it gave me a lot of, it was just amazing the way resources showed up the way they did. so people started showing up. I started doing work, and because really I had no other training other than pouring coffee in a donut shop. Okay. But I got things dropped into my lap when I needed them. And I started pursuing this alongside of my job. I was doing work on the side, cleaning homes, cleaning businesses and stuff like that to help pay for my courses. I never went into debt. I never went on welfare. I was able to make it through with those 7 kids. And those 7 kids were the motivation to keep me going. Because, life throws curveballs at all of us, right? And I knew that if I wanted my children to survive, they had to be able to get up out of the ditch, and I had to set the example that it could be done. So I came out of that situation. I was very fortunate to get a really good life coach who he made me cry every week, and finally said to me, "Why are you crying every week?" And I said, "I feel terrible about my life." But he taught me not to be a victim, to actually use the experiences that I had gone through as a stepping stone to my higher self, and to use the lessons that I had gained from those experiences to become who I am today. And I'm very grateful for the input that he had, because he helped me. We cannot change our past. All we can do is change our perspective of it. And it's out of that experience that I've been able to develop my practice, because I know that if a woman with 12 kids can crawl out of a ditch like that, just about anybody else can do it too. And what people need is hope, that there is hope that they can change and that they can do better, and that they're not condemned to repeating the mistakes of the past, or condemned to just living out the endless consequences of what came before. You can change your life, and you can develop in a way that not only gives you satisfaction, but also enables you to help people because you went through those experiences.
Oh, Cheryl, that is so beautiful and inspiring.
Thank you.
And how have you taken all this learning and fire in your heart? Because I can definitely feel that. And how are you helping others right now?
Well, I've done 2 things. One is I became a natural bioenergetics practitioner. And one of the reasons I love this particular modality is because you're not only dealing with a person's physical health, it's also, your health is not just your physical being. It's also how you're doing emotionally, how you're doing spiritually, how you're doing socially, your interactions with other people. Rugged individualism doesn't work when it comes to healing. We often get damaged in our relationships, but it's also in relationships that we find healing. And so learning how to discern and who are good people to build relationships with, learning to identify your own limiting beliefs or ways of being that were not serving you, so that the truth of who you are can come out instead of being the conglomeration of all this mess that you came out of. And so I started incorporating that with natural bioenergetics. And not only was I have a full-time practice with that, I'd like to cut it back, but people just keep showing up. But what I decided to do was to multiply my influence, because when I'm working with somebody, it's straight addition. I'm just working one-on-one, and it's, it makes a difference to that person. But I wanted to multiply the influence. And so what I've done is I've devoted more and more of my time to teaching others how to do what I do. And I absolutely love it. It's so, one of the best things is watching people grow into really good practitioners. And as they grow, they're also overcoming a lot of their own trauma and mess in their background. So it's been a thrilling ride as far as that goes.
Beautiful. And I love how you shared that helping others grow is so powerful. And we are so blessed. Talking about coaches, consultants, healers, anybody who's out there doing work for others, is that we are literally blessed to partake in somebody else's journey and help them grow. Beautiful, Cheryl. So Marcia, share with us, how have you taken your healing journey and use it for helping others?
Okay, so well, to be completely honest, I didn't feel like I could probably properly help people unless I have done like the deep work, because I got to a point where I realized that I was really making through a lot of adversity through sheer force and power, and with, push, and bypassing, and a lot of toxic positivity. And, I came out of an abusive marriage as well. And, had been on welfare payments for a brief moment, and thank God I had that, and I'm very grateful I had that. And I was planned to do a career change, and I made that process an energetic process to really align with what my soul purpose was. So I have made it, but I knew deep inside I haven't dealt with the deep stuff from my childhood, from the disconnection that I felt deep inside, since my accident as well. And so I really had to start honoring all of those hurt parts of me, and that was like the game changer for me. And something I'm very proud of, because I feel completely in integrity when I'm holding space for someone. I don't want to be that person who is pushing people over the edge and telling them to just go and do it, because I know what it does to the nervous system. I know what it does to people who are already in survival mode, trying to push and be something. And it's just like burnout. I call it personal development burnout. It's cortisol, adrenaline, and it's not healthy. So to me, I had to really look inside and go, hey, if you're really gonna touch people's lives, if you're really gonna be that safe person to be, in co-regulation with another, to help them transform, you have to go through, you have to do your deep healing. So this trauma healing work was very important for me to also to understand how I got to that abusive marriage, how why I was feeling so disconnected. And also I'm very interested in the neuroscience about all of that and polyvagal theory. So I needed to do a lot of study, and I needed to also experience that. And that's very important for me to mention. So the accident was just like a little dot, and and I like to say I really believe that I have been through these experiences, and the purpose of that was to be able to guide people through similar experiences, whether it's healing from a life-changing injury or life-changing event, or navigate those turning points in life where you need to honor yourself more fully. And healing trauma is very important to me, because it means that the future generations are also healed as you do that. So, healing our lineage is very important. So that's how I help people today. I help people being able to hold those wounded parts of themselves, and access that, their inner resources, their creativity, their authenticity, and to be able to the buck stops with them, no more forward, to show up as the best parents they can be, and to reach their full potential.
That's powerful, because everybody's at a different place on their healing journey. And as you mentioned that, for some, getting pushed on to the edge may work, but for some, it may not. So it's about recognizing where people are, meeting them where they're at, and then holding that safe space and helping them move through it. Very powerful, Marcia.
Thank you.
Heather, so if you can share with us how your healing journey has helped you help others.
Yes. So basically, I was struggling whenever I got to that point of like breaking for myself, I was struggling with people pleasing. I had really low self-esteem. Like I had just really spread myself really thin and didn't really have a lot of self-worth. I wasn't taking very good care of myself. I never really had a proper self-care routine, or little did I even know what self-care actually meant. And then I had trust issues with myself and the world, you know, because of the experience with my husband and everything. It was like, I didn't trust myself. And it was like, that was just the icing on the cake. It just had brought me to this place where I couldn't trust any decision that I made. So decision making and problem solving was just overwhelming. I couldn't even figure out what I wanted to eat. It was that bad. Like I just could not properly think. The stress and the overwhelm were just overbearing. And so I tried so many different things. I went to therapy. I tried childhood timeline therapy. I tried literally so many different things. And I just recorded the process. And some things really helped. Some things actually changed my life exponentially. And that's what I use in my programs today. And then some things were really keeping me stuck and really making things worse. Particularly the things that were making me relive the experiences. When it made me try to remember all the bad things that ever happened to me, talk about them, write about them, and even some shadow work. Like I did some shadow work where it wanted me to go into grave detail about all the awful things that caused me to feel angry and things like of this nature. This was not helping. But when I started to learn to love the parts of me that had been hurt and my emotions, and started to build a relationship with these experiences, right? And also learning to use gratitude for how can I be grateful for this? What did I learn from this experience? What came from this experience? What kind of growth did I experience? And how am I a better person today because of this experience so how am I a victor instead of a victim? You know, like how did this change my life in a positive way instead of put me to hell, right? Like how did it make things better than worse? And so the main things that actually helped me were the tools that showed me how to look at my current habits, my patterns, and my behaviors, because that was making me who I was, and that was creating the reality that I was living in, and it was helping me attract the experiences that I was attracting, right? So if I was believing that I was a victim and I believed that I had to do whatever anybody else needed me to do, or they were going to be mad at me or disappointed in me, this is what I was experiencing, right? So the tools that showed me how to pay attention to those habits, patterns, and behaviors, which were created based off of the trauma that I experienced, right? So I was just a walking trauma defense mechanism, right? So I had to look at those defense mechanisms, those reactions, those ways of being, and I had to slowly shift that. That had nothing to do with remembering where I got that defense mechanism. I just had to look at the defense mechanism where it was and make slow shifts. Week by week and day by day, right? And I was on my own for a long time. It took me a long time to find a mentor, even though I begged for one every day. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I need some help. But I finally got to a point where it's like, oh, I'm the mentor. I'm the mentor. That's why I couldn't really find one until I went back to school, right? And so I just kept making shifts in my day-to-day habits. I was like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to talk to myself this way. I'm not going to make this decision today. So that's where, that's how I help my clients today, is I help them become super aware of what's going on in their day-to-day life. And I help them make slow and subtle shifts there. And it's like this really quick transformation, right? It's like, and it's a process. Everything that we learn is a process, but because it's just one of these new perspective shifts that they can make quickly, they feel better quickly, even though it's still a process. And I always remind them that healing comes in layers. So the main thing that I always remind my clients is we might scratch the surface, right, in our first go around, and we might create a wonderful foundation. But just because something resurfaces doesn't mean you didn't do it right. It's just the next level. It's the next level of healing. It's the next level of self-love. It's the next level of confidence. It's the next level of whatever it is you're about to go through, right? So just because you have to re-go through something that you thought you've already done doesn't mean that you didn't do it right. It just means you're up leveling, because we're the students of life, right? So how can we fall in love with the highs and the lows? That's one of the main things that I tell my clients is life is not a straight line. even as a power healer, as a life coach, as an energy healer, as all these things, like I have my highs and lows, but now I've learned how to fall in love with those low moments, right? I've fallen in love with the lessons, because that's where my wisdom, that's where my growth, that's where the strength comes from, is when we're in the lows. It's like, this might not be comfortable, but I'm going to learn something really awesome here that I can use for myself and my clients, right? How can we fall in love with those challenges of life? So it's really just about, how can we use that power of reframing? How can we see things from a different perspective? And how can we just exercise these muscles of doing things just a little bit differently, 1% each day? And it makes really powerful shifts, not only because it creates a new you, right? It creates a new way that you're experiencing life. So this creates a new reality. And now you're in control. You've always been in control, but you get to be in control in a more positive way.
Yeah, that's very insightful. And what we are learning again here today is that not every modality fits everything. And it's, even if you think about movies, not everybody likes every movie. And similarly, every doctor doesn't fit every patient. And similarly, every energy modality is not for you. So it's again, finding out what works for you and moving from there. Linda, share with us, how do you specifically help others?
I work with natural bioenergetics, like I mentioned before, and it's a system in some ways similar to traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture, but we don't use the needles, and we can do it by distance. We can do it. I see most of my clients by Zoom. I teach most of my classes by Zoom. And what we're looking at is, how do we go to the underlying root disturbance in your energy system? So whether it's in your physical or in the more outer parts of your biofield, there's an energy system that runs through there. We call them meridians. That's what those are, those lines that acupuncturists use to find where to put their needles. Well, that's energy flows through the body. And those flows are light and electromagnetic fields and information. It's really information that the body's using. And so we clean up, correct, reprogram, do whatever we need to do to get all those information flows going and provide it the actual photons that it needs that transfer through that meridian system. So if you think of it, it's very much like when you get a computer that's new, everything runs beautifully and smooth and it all talks to each other and it's fast. And over time it gets slowed down and it stops working and this stops working and that starts glitching, and then you go and you refresh the programming and it starts working all well again. Well, it's the same thing. Your energy system gets traumas, gets overloads, gets toxins, gets stuck stuff that you don't know how to process. Your body hasn't processed and released the energy again. And so we refresh that whole system and then your energy works again. The body's designed to be self-healing. I call myself a healer, but I don't actually heal anybody. Nobody does. You can only heal yourself. But I'm like the orchestra director that's going, all right, you now, this one here, this meridian there, this gland here, that there, this energy out here, just getting them all to talk to each other and work together properly. So it's very much a case of, you know, connecting the wiring back up, connecting the sound system to the main drive, connecting the colors and lights back in and getting everything flowing together properly. So the way we heal people is to get their system to work again. Remove the things that are causing static, remove the things that are causing short circuits, remove the things that are overloaded, and adding in the things that they need to restore the proper frequency and vibration in their whole system, because everything's frequency and vibration. It's all about how are you vibrating and where are you vibrating too much to the wrong thing, and where are you vibrating too little and need something more, and balancing that all out and getting the whole system to work together in a complete loop or circuit. We want to break the vicious cycle and create a nurturing cycle where the body will naturally provide what it needs, whether that's information or photons or energy or whatever it is that it needs. It'll allow it to flow it through the system properly. And so the healing is all about getting the body to initiate what it's supposed to do naturally and remove the things that are preventing it from doing that.
Definitely. And it makes sense that everybody heals themselves, and we can call healers, we can call other people guides and orchestrators. I like that. So very powerful. And Arkela, people know about yoga. So what specialty do you have, and how do you help people?
This is such an interesting question, and I find that the best way to answer that is to ask other people, which I've done over the last couple of weeks, and just said to a few of my clients, how have I supported you and how have I helped you, so that my perception of what I do for people is clear, because people are telling me what kind of feedback they're getting from the experiences with me. So one of the things that I'm told over and over is I can read patterns. My teaching is eclectic. Like, I've picked up a lot of different styles of medicine work, healing work over the years, many. And so I kind of don't label myself as any particular type of healer. And I absolutely agree with everyone else's comments about we don't heal other people. I call myself a facilitator of healing. I open the channels and the healing comes through. So sometimes it comes through as spirit guides coming in and delivering a message, or sometimes I see the angels come in and they provide a healing. But always it starts with tuning in to the person's energy field and not creating too much of a structure in how I approach that, and being open and saying my prayers and honoring before I start that, and seeing what comes in and allowing the honesty of what that person's needs to come through. So sometimes it will be quite shamanic with drums and rattles, and I'll feel, guides with herbs, rubbing herbs over people and those kind of things, and sounds. And other times it's more nurturing. Like, I just feel like someone just needs to get on that table and I just need to offer them the most nourishing experience they can have, so their nervous system can calm down and they can start doing all the self-repair work. So my work really changes, but one of the consistent energies that I feel coming through me, or offerings or receiving that people get, is this connection to the divine feminine. And so for me, there's been an imbalance on the planet. I think a lot of people are aware of that. And it's time for this energy of receiving and nurturing to come through more strongly. So I connect people with that energy of the ancient lines of what the goddesses, the archetypes hold, and bringing that through as teachings and helping people understand how to manage their emotions, their perceptions on things. And also, to be quite frank, I think one of the things that people say that they bring, like the recommendations, because a lot of my work is word of mouth. So people say that, I'll go to see Arkela because your heart's closed down. And so I do a lot of that work with helping people reconnect with heart coherence, breathing, and feeling into their heart, leaving their brain. And the mind is a magnificent tool, but it's not a magnificent master. The heart is the master. The heart holds the wisdom. The heart holds the ancientness. The heart is the first thing that grows in a baby when it's developing in the womb. The heart can orchestrate all of the things in the body and knows how to heal. So connecting with the heart, and not just forgiveness and compassion. I mean, that's all part of it, of course, but the heart as an energy, as an organ, as well as a physical organ, and how we can bring that heart healing in and find the connection and trust again. And my yoga, my energy healings, my retreats, all that kind of stuff, they all speak of how can we learn to listen and trust ourselves and move away all the things that are distracting and sending us off on those paths that aren't helpful to us. How can we find the helpful path within the reference point, or the north node of our heart, so that every decision we're making is coming from a place that within us feels incredibly true. And when we can remove the traumas and deal with them and see our shadows and understand how to work with all of the aspects of our psyche, we can start to connect in with the true power of our heart. So they're the kinds of things people say to me that I help with, and they feel very true to what I offer. And that's what I feel like I bring to the world.
Beautiful. Jennifer.
So it's similar to all of the wonderful women on this panel. Like it's never a one size fits all, right? Like when you dive into this, every person is so individual that I can't say when I work with my clients, this happens. Like it's always something different and it's always so profound. But what I do is I actually, again, open to spirit and let spirit lead everything, including helping them tap into their own divine spirit. Now, that being said, of course, I use all the tools. I've got the certifications and the Reiki and the, neurolinguistic programming and the life coaching. And so I open up with every client that I'm working with based on what their goals are and what they're coming to me for, whether it's a one-off healing session or if it's a long-term coaching program or whatever it is that we're working together in. And I use all of the tools. So because I've always been psychic and I literally get information in so many different ways, whether it's, I can see it, I can hear it, I can feel it, I just sense it. I can look at their chakras and see what's out of balance, and I can see where their energy might need a little bit of tweaking, and I can see where maybe there's something just a little bit hidden. And once you bring it to light, the healing it just will happen. Anything that we can bring to light and open ourselves up to, the healing is so readily available, and the divine is so readily available that when we come into divine alignment within ourselves, the rest of it all kind of flows. And again, that being said, it's always different. So sometimes one session is a little bit of life coaching, a little bit of healing, and a little bit of, whatever comes through. So it's a big myriad of all of the things, and whatever is in their best interest in that moment, given the history and the knowledge and the training that I have. So again, the psychic tool is my biggest and best one because it's a built-in BS meter. Like we'll just see what spirit has for you, what's in your highest and best interest, and let's look at this. Sometimes it's Akashic records, sometimes it's a soul contract, sometimes it's a past life issue. Like it literally can be any and all of that, right? Because we're here on this planet as spiritual beings in this human experience. So even if it's a past life thing, there's probably something in your current lifetime that is mirroring it, or you're bringing that experience back. So if it's showing up for healing now, it doesn't really matter if it's past life or this lifetime. Let's heal it. It's showing up. It's ready to be brought to the light. Let's heal it and clear it. So the healing work is so vast, right? You're seeing all these amazing women who have all of these amazing techniques and look at things in all these different amazing ways. And it's an individual experience, but the way that I approach the healing and how I help others is meeting them right where they are. And the first thing is reminding them that they are divine first and that God makes amazing things. And then we just let the rest kind of spirit brings us exactly what we need in every session.
Wow. It's just amazing listening to each and every one of you.
I have the mindset that if I wasn't going to share this with the world, I would be committing a sin. It would be like a sin not to put this into the hands of other people. So, when someone comes to me, and I started off in clinic, so I worked in clinic for around about 10 years before I came online, and they could be in the depths of despair and, facing trauma, triggers, and yet have that inclination that they want to be something big, they want to be something special, they want that success. And yet, what's pulling them back? What's holding them hostage, if you will, to their own potential? So I would see people, and it wasn't a focus when I first began, but I would, go through not just one specific modality, but I would bring in all the, different varieties and, really treat every individual personally. I would just let it flow through, and, we would go back, we'd do ancestral healing. We would then break the bondages that were holding them back in their life. And what I was seeing was, and it was like case studies, so I would come back and they would suddenly be like a different person. They would, suddenly go from being this small person that was getting downtrodden and facing a lot of the same and similar self-doubt that I was, to suddenly standing their ground, knowing who they were, wanting something better. And then even one man, if I can say just very quickly, said to me, well, if I can do this, I can do anything. And he said, I want to hit $1 million in my business. And I thought, wow, okay, I asked him all the right questions. And the when question was like 3 months. And I thought, you know, you've got to be a little bit realistic. But that client showed me, because he actually surpassed his $1 million mark. And what I seen and what I noticed is that people would really hit their, I guess, their zone of genius and really come out, and that would shine through in their wealth and their success, and of course what I call your freedom.
Well, one of the things that I find incredibly fulfilling is the ability to work with an individual, particularly when they come into the office and they are struggling in the depths of despair, struggling in just hopelessness. And one of the things I've discovered is that hope is an amazing healer. As I'm working with a new client and they are going through the trials that they're experiencing, the pain and the suffering and the limitations and their ability to not move forward, but they're stuck in life where they don't want to be. And as we're working together, I think one of the most fulfilling aspects is to see freedom come into a person's life, to see them begin to lift, to see literally the moment hope sparks in a session when I'm working with a client, and it is transformational. To a degree, it's like the baggage starts to fall off. You know, I use this analogy that people are a lot like a sailing ship. You know, they'll come into the office, they'll be heavily laden with ropes hanging off the side and ballast, and the trim's wrong and the sails aren't up. And as we work together, you know, the sails start to fill, the ballast disappears, the ship that they sail on comes up on trim, and they start to course in the direction that they're meant to go. And it's just this transformational moment that we see again and again and again in the offices, and it drives me forward. I don't know of any greater energizing moment when to see a client find the freedom that they're so desperately wanting.
It was your stories and your work that got you this recognition. How does it feel to be recognized as a power healer of 2022?
A little bizarre. You know, sometimes you just put your head down, you just keep plugging away, and then I never really thought about recognition about the work that I was doing, but and still to this day, I kind of feel a sense of surprise sometimes when I have people saying, hey, can I come and hang out with you? And I'm like, what, you want to hang out with me? Yeah, you just have so much insight or whatever. And they just like hanging out with me. And I'm like, wow, that's really awesome. So yeah, it was a bit of a surprise, but it's a pleasant surprise to be considered a power healer.
Yes, and here's the thing, folks. What we want to share over here is that everyone is awesome in their rights. And it is just about, with Mental Awareness Month, it's important to recognize people who are making a difference, who are our everyday heroes. So yes, it may be surprising, but you were recognized. So congratulations, Cheryl.
I want to add one thing to that. I think one of the things that's been the most rewarding for me, that, you know, it's one thing to have the world tell you that you're a power healer or something, right? But the other day I went to lunch with my eldest son, and we were just talking. He lives in a different province than I do, so I don't get to see him that often. But we were just talking over about things that were happening in our life. And, you know, our family was quite dysfunctional, and we were running off in 40 million directions. And over the past couple of years, we've all kind of come back together. And one of the things that my son said to me the other day is, isn't it amazing, Mom? We're actually helping each other heal. And to me, that was the most important recognition, because you know, you can work with people one-on-one and you see them for the short amount of time that they're in your life. But when it's working in your own family and you're seeing healing and love and compassion being shown there, then you know you're really onto something.
Yes, that is the biggest recognition that you can get. And yes, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Cheryl. And Marcia, you
I'm
are a
taking
power.
breath here. I'm really moved from what Cheryl said because it's so true. I mean, this is the biggest recognition you can have is seeing your work, your personal work, and how you show up change the family and the people immediately close to you. Sorry, Divya, did I interrupt you? What this recognition means to me is, look, I, as someone who has had as many experiences as I had, where I had to sort of find the strength and dig deep and have the hope and learn the lessons and do all of those things, to me, this recognition really reaffirms to me that those experiences were not in vain, that they weren't, that the importance of embodying this work every day and doing the personal work, that so that I can help people more deeply and more safely, and help with personal transformation. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to me. So yeah, I'm really stoked and grateful. And yeah, that's all.
That's beautiful, Marcia. And yes, and it's important that we recognize people who are doing work out there selflessly, who want to go and help others. And it's also important to take a moment to celebrate them. So I am feeling awesome because I get to celebrate each and every one of you. So Heather, as we celebrate you, share with us, how does it feel to be a Power Healer 2022?
I almost lost my mind, to be honest. I just was blown away from this. And, you know, I just feel so honored because I just feel like it's going to help with what like my whole intention is to really spread the message that anyone can do this and everyone is so powerful and everyone deserves to have like a wonderful life. And no matter where you've come from, no matter what you've experienced, right? It's like seeing all these beautiful people here, Marcia and Cheryl, and then just like hearing about their experiences, it's like anyone can do this, right? And that's why I am just so honored to be a part of this group and to be sharing my experience with you guys, because I just love more than anything getting a message or hearing from somebody talking about how they read one of my stories or whatever it is, and they were inspired to take some action to change their experience because they had a similar experience, right? Anyone can do this. So being recognized for this just really helps me feel like I have really done what I was meant to do in this part, right? Like I came over all of these obstacles and I have shared my experience relentlessly so that other people can get that hope, get that inspiration so that they can change their life, because I never thought joy, peace, and happiness was going to be something that I was deserving of or could ever possibly experience. And if I can find it, like I just know that anybody else can. And I just want that more than anything for people, because when I found it, not only did I find it for myself, but I started to love myself in such a deep way. And I started to love others, even people that maybe some people think they don't deserve the love, right? I just started to love everyone no matter what, and I just believe when you truly heal and you learn to love yourself, that it's just not possible to love others just as much, because you start to have that compassion and that understanding for yourself. And that just reflects onto everybody else. So when I heal, others heal. When others heal, I heal. And when we all heal, the planet heals. And that is something that is very, very important to my heart, is the health of this planet and the health of our species, of everyone, right? So I just feel like this is just a huge movement. Like I'm so thankful for this magazine, that this is even a thing to be a part of. For number one, whether I'm a part of it or not, I think it's so important, and I'm just honored to be a part of it. So like, it just blows my mind, and I'm pretty much speechless at this point.
So Linda, this is super exciting because you are a power healer 2022. How does it feel to be recognized?
It's amazing, actually. I'm one of these people who used to be pretty introverted and stuck to the back. And even when I started doing all this healing work, I didn't do any marketing. I didn't do anything. If people came to me, they showed up, and that was great. And the concept of being out there and recognized in public, and I've written 2 books now, both are bestsellers, and all that kind of stuff. I was kind of one of these people back here, and so this honor has really been amazing to me, and I'm very grateful for it. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to share more with more people and to really get it out there and help let people know that these gifts are available, and whether, don't suffer unnecessarily. Just because you don't know doesn't mean you can't find out. And we're delighted to share these things with you. And the more people this can get to, the more people can be healed, the more people can be served, the more people can connect where they need to connect with the kind of person, with the individual that is going to really speak to their heart and mind and soul. And so for me, this recognition is just another way to extend our services and our contacts out to those who really need it. Because given the last 2 years, there are so many people who are desperate for help and who have seen their inner demons by being locked away for 2 years. And it's time to deal with them. And we want to get the word out there. We want to let people know there is help. You don't have to live that way. You don't have to be stuck in it. So go for it.
Thank you, Linda. Jennifer.
How does it feel to be recognized? Oh my goodness, just to be a part of this group with all these amazing women. I'm just like, oh, look at all of these women, and I got to be included in this. It's amazing. It's absolutely an amazing feeling. And I think it's so powerful that we're all coming together because we all have this mission to help heal, right? To help heal others, to help heal other women, to help other women step into their own power, and to really get back into divine alignment, I think is probably one of the biggest things that almost everybody on this panel has spoken to in some way, shape, or form. So how amazing to be a part of this. I feel so blessed.
So very powerful, Jennifer. Arkela.
Yeah, this recognition means something very, very powerful to me personally. And also I think globally it's a statement. So personally, it's given me a gigantic nudge. I'm someone that's been hiding a fair bit in my work, and I'm happy to be a yoga teacher and be out there, but the spiritual offering or the guidance, the energy healing work, and yes, sharing my psychic gifts and those kind of things have felt a bit scary to me in the past. And I've just gone by word of mouth mostly and kept it pretty small and kept myself pretty comfortable. But the process of going through this recognition has stepped me into a space of being that powerful healer and owning that I do bring something magnificent to others, and I do want to share this more broadly. I do want to support more people to impact their lives in ways that are really transformative. And so for me, this recognition has stepped me out of that comfort zone and into a much bigger world. Already things are starting to open up and flow, and I'm feeling really seen, and that feels wonderful and exciting. And also globally, I feel there's an awakening of humanity into this new place we all want to go to, where spirituality is accepted as part of mainstream, corporate and spirituality. We're moving from wellness and other terms that are kind of have been accepted, or women's empowerment even, concepts like that and movements like that, and now kind of reaching into this deeper space where people are wanting something deeper in their lives. They're wanting a deeper experience. They're wanting to know themselves more. They're wanting more out of lives. So for me, I feel like this recognition is a statement out there to the world that we are ready as healers. We are ready to come forth and support humanity to make that shift.
Is this so important to me? It really goes back to the foundation of my passion. So, you know, I believe that every single person, when they're really called to doing this kind of work that we're doing on the planet, healing, you know, like the Oprah Winfreys of the world, they suffered themselves first. So for me, what it really meant is it's actually very, very deep, because it goes back to my why. See, if I look at my why and then I talk about how, you know, you can turn the pain of your story into your greatest glory, that is where the acronym that I created comes into play. And that acronym is GRR, right? It's the things that make you go grrr, you know, the triggers, the things that get under your skin. And, you know, when I was a child, I didn't feel important. I didn't feel recognized. When I was at school, it was the same. I felt so, I guess, like just pushed to the side. And yet it was either for me that I would be at the top at what I was doing, or I could be right at the very bottom. So for me, being a person recognized for who I am and what I do means the absolute world to me, because that was what was taken from me in my earlier days. So importance and recognition. So what this means for me, Divya, is that you have recognized something in me that I give to the world, but it's not about what I can do for a person in healing their trauma, but it's just being recognized and appreciated. And that's where that GRR acronym, just in short, is G for gold. And your gold is really where the trauma of the story is, but we kind of transmute that into gold. The R is recognizing. So recognizing that, hey, hang on a minute, everything that I went through and all the things that ever happened to me are for the greater good. And then the next R is for releasing. So it's so important to release from the past so that we're not caught in the trap of altruism or, you know, working out of a codependent need, but out of a God-given calling. And then finally, the last R, which is revolutionizing. So revolutionizing your life. And that's exactly what happened to me. So, you know, being able to find that importance and being able to feel recognized, I believe just really gives my spirit that just that fulfilled appreciation of gratitude.
Brian.
Yes, I think what this recognition means to me is a number of different things. One is that there's a personal satisfaction in knowing that I have something to offer to the world, and can be a source of transformation, that the journey I've been on, the trials and the pain and the things that I've learned have value in the world as it is, and the value is as an example for other people as they come into the office and we work together. It is the ability to be a person of transformation, be a source of hope and not really enlightenment, but a place where people can see it, an example of what is possible. As I'm working with clients, it's not only about me. It is nice to be recognized for the skills and the gifts and the abilities and the effort put in, but there's a much larger picture, right? As our communities grow stronger, individually we grow, and as a community we grow, and as a country we grow. And part of the dynamics of natural bioenergetics is the individual specialist and practitioner, but I also represent a company of specialists, I represent an international organization, Natural Bioenergetics Global, that owns the intellectual property to the system that I practice. And as president, sort of a front person, a spokesman for this particular system. And so the recognition, it has different layers to it. It is the personal, it is the professional, it is the organizational. And part of the goal of training specialists and practitioners around the planet is to see that transformation continue and expand. And so while the individual is recognized, it is really, we are just a source of transformation. We're not the cause of transformation. The individual in their journey is the cause of their transformation. We are just a resource.
Super. I'm just getting goosebumps, folks, here. It's been amazing. Wow, I am so energized. As we are wrapping this up, I'd love to hear if you have any tips that people can walk away with and then start implementing straight away. Cheryl.
This is one that I use a lot with people. I've used it a couple of times this week, both with myself and several of my kids. Very often what we react to and what causes us the most grief is not actually what happened, but how we've interpreted it. So we are meaning-making machines. So when something happens, we make a story about it, and then we react to our story, and our story becomes our gospel and truth. And the more people we can recruit to our story, the more valid our story seems. But really, it's just a story that we have chosen and assigned meaning to. And I have noticed in my own life and watching my kids and some of the people I work with, if once we can stop and identify the story and ask ourselves, why did I choose that meaning? And then choose a different meaning or actually ask questions about what's actually going on here, the results are way better than just creating mess that doesn't even exist outside of your own head. So catch your story. Notice stories that other people make as well, because everybody makes stories. And if you can ask people why they're choosing that interpretation, it opens up the doors for better communication and less misunderstanding.
Very powerful. And where can people connect with you, Cheryl?
Well, you can find me at kinesionics.ca, which is my website. I'm also on Facebook, Cheryl Hanna, Kinesionics. You can contact me there. I'm also on LinkedIn. That's about the only platforms I really hang out on.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here with us, Cheryl. And we are very happy to have recognized you as our power healer to follow for 2022.
Thank you. It's been an honor, especially with these other power healers here. They're awesome.
Thank you. Marcia.
Wow, I was going to say I'm going to piggyback on Cheryl's tip, because I think that was awesome. So I want to say something else to that. Often the pain that we feel is related also to the meaning that we give to things, and sometimes we need to lean into that pain a little bit more and get information about it to really connect to our emotions, and understand what they say about our needs and what is important to us and what we want. So don't be afraid to lean into the pain and kind of remove the meaning you gave and look at what's underneath, what's trying to emerge from that pain, what pain is trying to communicate. And engage support. I think that there's a lot of stoicism and a lot of a shame, and that we don't want to be seen by someone else. But healing happens in relationship, and it's super important that you engage someone who can support you and is so nurturing as well. So these are my 2 tips. I'll leave you with that. And thank you so much. And yes, I'm really honored to be here and to hear these amazing women talk. It's been such a pleasure and so much value. Thank you, everyone.
Absolutely. So Marcia, how can people connect with you?
So I am on Instagram, and my handle on Instagram is the_turnaround_alchemist. And you can also find me on Facebook, on LinkedIn as Marcia Tapperman, or www.marciatapperman.com.au.
Beautiful. Heather.
So I wanted to share the tips that have really changed my life because, of course, there's so many, right? But some of the main ones that really changed my life, and I think we could even add it to what Marcia and Cheryl said too, is number one is gratitude. How can you be grateful for what you've already got? And this includes your past and your present, right? So how can, and even your experiences, your emotions, your behaviors, because even the behaviors you might deem as negative or self-sabotage or things that you think might be holding you back, how can you be grateful for them, right? What might they be doing for you that has a positive intention? Why might they be trying to help you instead of hurt you, right? How can we fall in love with the parts of ourselves and be grateful and give appreciation to the parts of ourselves, whether it's from our past or our present, that have just been a part of our lives, right? When we learn to use this gratitude, this really shifts our perspective, and it starts to create opportunities and miracles in our life. And it can happen very quickly. I know for me it did. And then once we start to build that practice of looking at what we can be grateful for and appreciate about our life currently, then what I encourage everyone to do, because stress is so prevalent nowadays, is how can we build the habit of relaxation, right? Question yourself, what are the healthy things, the healthy activities that help you relax, right? Is it being out in nature? Is it meditating? Is it journaling, reading? What are some healthy things that you can do to relax and just build that habit? How can you commit to doing that multiple times a day, especially during or before a stressful experience or event that you have to do during the day, right? If you have any activities that stress you out, how can you go back to relaxation? And then once you're in this state of gratitude and appreciation and relaxation, this is when true creation can happen. You can create anything in life. So this is the best time, once you've built these two habits, to start thinking about your goals, whether that's your health goals or your healing goals, right? Or your desires. This could be material desires. Do you want a new house, a new car? Do you need new things in your life? Or even your dreams, right? Your mission in life, your career, your passions, right? These, when you have gratitude and appreciation and relaxation combined together, that is when creation and inspiration can flow naturally, and these things can come to you. The opportunities, the answers, the problems that you want solved, you can find the answer because you are literally flowing with a jackpot full of information. And the only way you access it is through gratitude, appreciation, and relaxation. So how can we adopt those habits into our life so that we can change our life experience, right?
Definitely helpful. So Heather, how can people connect with you?
The main platform that I am on is on Facebook. So you can find me at Facebook/Holistic Healer Heather, or you can just look up Heather Janelle Forrester on Facebook. And then I'm also on YouTube. My YouTube channel name is Holistic Healer Heather. So Facebook and YouTube are my main platforms.
One little tip I'd love to share with everyone is, a really, really simple way to kind of bring yourself back into yourself. And I know for so many people, when you get, anxious or worried or fearful or surprised, it's kind of like you go out there to protect yourself and then your body's left here going, ah. And one of the fastest ways to kind of bring yourself back together and get your heart and your mind all coordinated is what we call the thymus tap. And it's so simple. You simply take your right hand, stick it on your big sternum bone here, and then tap around. And you want to tap in what we call a counterclockwise. So if your hand is here, you're going to go down from your fingers. So you're going to go that way. You're not going to go away from, you're not going to go onto the palm, but back down your fingers. And just take all 4 fingers and tap vigorously. Stay on the bone here. Don't get really big. Stay up on the bone here and just tap and breathe. And that tapping and breathing within about 30 seconds, for most people, will bring them back together, will get their body and their mind talking to each other again, help them coordinate and connect all of their meridian systems together. And that, we call it a thymus tap. Some people call it a thymus thump. You can do it whenever. There is no restrictions to it. It will never harm you, will always help you pull yourself back together. And so that's really something that everybody can do any time of the day to help calm themselves down. Remember to breathe with it. And I'd love to have contact with any of you who'd like to ask some more questions or explore how we might work together. I'm on Instagram. It's just Linda Easthouse. Very easy to follow. I'm on Facebook. I have both a public group and a private group that is called Healthy Mindset and Lifestyle. So you can just put that in there, Healthy Mindset and Lifestyle group, and you'll show up there. Please join us there. We share lots of tips on how to manage your energy, how to heal, how to initiate some of those healing things. We do about a monthly free workshop on issues often related to burnout and recovery and prevention, but many other helping things as well. There's lots of free information in there for you to get connected with. And of course, check out my website, www.lindaeasthouse.com. Very simple and easy to find me. Please get in contact with me. I'd love to share with anybody who wants to talk some more.
Thank you, Linda. So appreciate you and so thrilled to be here with you.
Okay, one tip for the audience. The one tip is God makes amazing things and you are amazing. Just remember that. Like, if nothing else, if you take nothing else, remember you are an amazing, divine, beautiful being, and embrace this life. Create a life that you actually love. We're here to experience. We're here to love. We're here to laugh. And I know that sounds so cheesy, live, laugh, love, but by golly, it's true. And so enjoy it, experience life, and embrace it all to the fullest. And you guys can reach me very, very easily at jenniferlonberg.com. I'm sure that this has been printed somewhere so you can see how to spell my name because it always gets misspelled, but jenniferlonberg.com. And then of course I am on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. So I would love to see you guys all there.
Live, love, laugh. I think even though it's around everywhere and we don't do it. So very powerful, Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining us. Arkela.
Of course, as a spiritual coach, I have a lot of tips, but a couple of my favorites are, one of them is actually a quote written from a guy called Adam Rower, who is a spoken word poet. And he writes this beautiful poem, and the main line in the poem is, treat yourself like someone you love. And I feel like that just speaks reams to how much we criticize ourselves and how horrible we can be to ourselves on our own healing journeys. And I feel like it's time now to remember how to love ourselves. So if you can treat yourself like someone you love and do all the care and all the help, seek the mentors, seek the coaches, seek the healings, treat your energy body as if it does need caring for, and the physical body too, that needs movement. So I feel like practices in movement and practices in looking after yourself, looking after your heart, looking after your energy, finding people around you to get that journey on track instead of doing it all by yourself are really the ways to go. And I wish you all so well on your journey ahead. And if you'd love to contact me, my name's pretty unique and it can be found across Instagram and Facebook. It's Arkella, A-R-K-E-L-L-A-H. There's not another in the world, so you don't even need to know my last name. But I'm also the Goddess Yoga Healer and also under Goddess Yoga. Thanks for your joining with me today. Blessings.
So if I could give anyone a couple of secret sources that would help with your life, it would be, number one, understand your God-given purpose. Because when you're living your life according to your purpose, there's something very magical that happens. It not only strengthens your immunity because you've got that, you know, that will to get up in the morning and jump out of bed and feel really, really excited, but it'll give you a sense of that you are doing something on purpose in this planet. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean that you have to become a coach, healer, leader to do that. It can be finding your God-given call, whether it's in your family, your community, with your hands, because it will bring you to life. And the second secret sauce that I would say is that with every struggle and battle that you have, learn how to stop and ask yourself the right questions. What am I feeling? Where does this come from? And what could possibly be the higher purpose? And the reason that I really emphasize on this is because this is about your immune system. This is about your health. Because when you actually acknowledge and you become so self-aware, and anybody can do this. You can teach a child to do this, to acknowledge your feelings and know that there's a higher purpose. What it actually does is it stops all those those neurons in your body from firing off and affecting and impacting your nervous system. So this is going to improve. It's going to stop it from going inside your library of your body, right? It's going to keep it here. It's going to help you to stay in control regardless of how bad you might be feeling. And it's going to make that difference to your life. That's going to even ask a question to your subconscious, whether you know it or not, and you don't have to answer it. Sometimes even when you're asking that question, what does this mean? What am I feeling? It may mean just to leave that open-ended, because once you ask yourself these questions, guess what? Your subconscious mind will discover the answer. We'll download it to you, and whether it comes up in something you watch on TV, or perhaps a phone call, or something you hear or see, the download will come your way, and that's the big difference. So they're definitely two of my secret sources that I would love to share with the world.
Brian, if you have any tips that people can walk away with.
Well, a couple of tips that I'd like to leave with people is the understanding that the mind is an incredibly dynamic thing. The subconscious mind is designed to answer our questions. When the conscious mind asks a question, the subconscious will answer it. Now, the problem is sometimes we don't ask ourselves very good questions, like, why am I such an idiot? Well, the brain will answer that question. You're such an idiot because of these reasons. And we go, I didn't know I was such an idiot. The brain is designed to answer questions. So when we are self-talking or we're asking ourselves questions, if we can ask a positive question, we will often get a more positive response. So if we're trying to solve something and we ask ourselves, instead of why am I such an idiot, I can't figure this out, we can ask ourselves, how could I do this? And it's that self-talk that's important to track. Often I'll say to clients, have a piece of paper and a pencil and write down your self-talk. Well, today we type it into phones, but track your self-talk. And over the course of a week, you begin to see patterns emerge. And it gives you a bit of a cheat sheet into the way that the subconscious is responding to questions. And we can get an understanding of why we go off track or why we can hit those moments of frustration and despair. And coupled with that is a bit of word game, right? So often we will say, I should go do this, I shouldn't have done that. And often should is tied into shame. We are ashamed of ourselves. If you can pause in the middle of that, remove should out of the sentence, drop could into there, it immediately kicks it over to the right side of the brain, and the right side of the brain begins to look for options, right? Instead of I shouldn't have done that, we say to ourselves, I could have done something different. Instead of saying I should go do that, we say I could go do that. And we've processed different, we process much more positively, and we look for new options, transformation. And the second thing is to watch for the word but. We'll say, we'll hear people say, I really want to come spend time with you, but I can't. You got to wonder what's going on with that word but. If we put the word and in the middle of it, it links two halves of a sentence and it makes a more logical sentence, right? I really would like to spend time with you and I have something I have to do. It's a logical sentence and it doesn't kick us into that fight or flight quite so easily. Because if we can keep prefrontal cortex, if we can stay away from fight or flight, we stay in the moment, we stay able to process. And that's key, because all we have in life is the moment The past is gone. We can't change it. The future is undefined potential. We only have the moment, and how we think in the moment is critical to whether we stay intellectual, stay positive, stay forward moving, or whether we engage fight or flight and we fall back on old thought patterns. And so if you can keep one thing in mind is we only have the moment, and how we enter that moment, we either enter it through a means of love or through a means of fear. Fear is all the things that trigger fight or flight, and love is all the things that lift us, right? So if you feel light and lifted, generally you've entered that moment through love. If you feel heavy, pulled down, you've entered that moment through fear. And those just that battlefield of the mind, understanding how the mind works, can be critical to changing how we respond in the moment to others, whether we can respond in love or whether we trigger and respond in fear.
You got anything to add?
I have to say it's a real thrill and an honor to be included in this group of women. It's been really interesting hearing their stories and what they've been doing with their lives. And what some of you may not realize is that Linda Easthouse actually mentored me. So it's really a feather in my bonnet to be included in a group with Linda.
It's awesome to have you here. It's wonderful to share this with you.
You've really yanked me up to your level.
It's been amazing just to be in this space with so many gifted people and just to hear everyone's stories, because there's always things we can learn. And I have learned so much just from, being in this space with you all, and it's just incredible. And I feel so honored and privileged. So thank you.
Yes, it has been a privilege to be included in this group. And one of the things that we see over and over again is this critical mass of energy exchange. When you get people of common purpose and common vision who want to see transformation in the world, want to see transformation in our clients, and want to see transformation in just the dynamics of how our communities and countries function, the more we join forces, the more we collaborate, the more the critical mass lifts. We all lift. It's not about the individual, it is about the community. And then part of the joy of being a part of this group and the privilege of being a part of it is to be included in people who want to see transformation and see it happen dynamically and immediately.
Oh my goodness, what a power conversation we had. And thank you, audience. Without you, none of these would be possible. So thank you for joining us. And reach out to these wonderful, powerful healers. They're amazing. And we will be bringing you more information, and we are here to serve you. Thank you so much.